Good afternoon and welcome to Devils in Red 59. My name is Steve and today is Wednesday, the 25th of March. I'd just like to start off by giving a shout out to a sponsor of ours, which is a company called Dine by White. He's a personal chef that's making quite a big impact around the country now. If you're planning on having a dinner party, whether it be for an anniversary, wedding, engagement, birthday, anything of that nature, Dine by White can actually tailor make any menu to your requirements that will suit all parties. The company come out to your property with the waiter and waitress staff, and they will obviously cook the menu up in your kitchen that you've desired to serve to your guests so that you can enjoy your evening and not have to worry about cooking and washing up, etc. Dine by White, they also do garden parties where they can arrange marquees, outside bars, and obviously, again, all the staff, the marquees, and everything can all be arranged. If you'd like more information on having a venue at your home, or whether you're looking at hiring a private venue and you want an outside catering company to obviously provide all the bits and pieces that you'll require, then if you just Google Dine by White, they are based in the West Midlands. And obviously, if you make contact with them, then obviously Ian will give you all his personal attention and obviously be able to advise you better than I can as to what the process is. So just remember, if you are planning something, contact Dine by White. Okay, we're moving on to today's news. Um, Obviously, it's coming out by various reports now that Manchester United are starting to make a move in the transfer market by talking to a number of players and players' agents. And it's been revealed that Manchester United have now got their midfield shortlist, which comprises of Anderson, Walton, and Tonali. Those are the three main priority players for Manchester United for this summer transfer window. Obviously, Baleba that's been spoke about and worked on for over 12 months, it doesn't look like he's on the priority list. He's quite a bit further down, but I wouldn't rule out Baleba coming into Manchester United because with the 14, 15 months that Manchester United have been working on it, they're not just going to drop it like that. And obviously, Baleba's drop off in form, he's obviously going to bring his price right down. I know last summer, uh, albeit Brighton didn't mention a figure, it was being bandished about that Brighton would probably expect somewhere in the 100 million plus. And I think that Manchester United was only prepared at the time, had they got to the position of putting a bid in, would have been about 60 to 65 million at that particular time last summer. And obviously, with his drop off in form, I would think now that if Baleba comes in to Manchester United, I would think that INEOS realistically only want to be paying sort of 45 to 55 maximum for him. Now, obviously, the players had his head turned with everything that was going on around the summer and his possible move to Manchester United last summer. And I think that that's obviously had one big impact on his performance this year. But that doesn't mean to say that if Manchester United buy him this summer, that he can't come in and recapture his form that he showed us on the season before, which was obviously very good, and that's why we had the initial interest in him. Now, it wouldn't at all surprise me, albeit Anderson, Walton, and Tonali are the main three on the shortlist, that we don't get any of those. this could be a ploy by INEOS saying, well, we're trying to get the best in class, etc. It's still going around that different people believe that Anderson is a pretty much done deal with Manchester City, and it wouldn't surprise me if Manchester City don't get him, because obviously they've got this 115 still looming over them. And obviously in January they went out and spent big to get Semenyo and Gowie. So I think this summer they will be looking at bringing in some big players. So obviously, if this 115 is enforced, then if they get a ban from the transfer window for 12 months or 18 months, 2 years, whichever, they've got a side and young players that can carry them through that period of time. So it is looking likely that Manchester City will probably get Elliot Anderson. Adam Walton, again, there's interest starting to gather from certain clubs as well in respect of Adam Walton within the Premiership, and also I believe there may be some interest from suitors in Europe as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Adam Walton. And then obviously Tilani, he's made it quite well known that his preference is to move back to Italy, but it's whether any clubs in Italy can come up with his price that everybody suspects that Newcastle will put on him, which is probably going to be in the region of about 80 or 90 million pound. So, my personal opinion, it's probably unlikely that Tonali will go back to Italy. It doesn't rule him out from going to other clubs within Europe, such as Bayern Munich, and that may have an interest in him. And some of the Spanish clubs, Barcelona, maybe Real Madrid, and so forth. And those are sort of clubs that can afford, his sort of figure of 80 to 90. So you can't rule him out and say for 100% that he will stop within the Premierships, because I think he will have options from the Spanish league as well as the German league and so forth. So again, we'll have to wait and see what happens on that. But again, I think at the end of the day, Baleba, I think it's a foregone conclusion. He's going to come into Manchester United, and I think he'll be quite an early signing as well. I think it'll just come down to the transfer fee. But Manchester United, being Manchester United, don't like to overpay. I think they're probably going to be batting around the 50-55 million and use his drop off in form to try and achieve that type of figure. His wages, he's on quite a low wage at the moment. I think it was previously reported, is he on something ridiculous like 12 and a half grand a week or something like that. So whatever Manchester United decide to offer him, I don't think that his wage structure would be a problem coming to United. I would think they'd probably offer him in the region of 100, maybe 120k to maybe fall in line with probably what they're going to be giving Kobe Mainu, as that's also come out in the news now that Kobe Mainu, it's pretty much now a done deal. They expect him to sign a new contract probably within the next few days or couple of weeks. But because he's now on international duty within England, that will probably be held off until such time as he comes back from that. And then I pretty much expect it to be announced that Balaba's signed a new deal. And I think it was reported that the deal that's looking at him signing would keep him at the club till 2031. So obviously keep your eyes and ears open for that one when he returns from international duty, because I think it will be done fairly quickly after that. Obviously talking about our priority midfielders, as I say, I think out of those three, if anything, we'll probably have maybe Walton come to the club. He's a young player, I believe he's about 22. Belaber, I think he's about 22, and obviously Mainu's 20. So it's going to be a very young midfield side if that's the way it pans out. But I think we still need an element of experience in there. Now that Manchester United have said they're looking at bringing in two midfielders, but um, I think we need probably three or four midfielders, the same as what other channels are sort of reporting in respect to what they feel United need in the way of the midfield, because you've got Casemiro going. There's very good chances that Ugarte's going to go by the sounds of things. So realistically, that's only going to leave Mainu. And if we only bring in two midfield players, that gives us three midfield players. That's certainly not going to be enough for playing in Europe and obviously the cup matches that we'll be involved in, as well as the league matches. So whether we do bring in three, or whether INEOS in the early stages of the pre-season are going to be pushing more for some of the academy players to be given more game time in the pre-season, so we can have a good look at them. And if they feel that there's somebody there that can come through the ranks, then that may well be where your fourth and fifth midfielder is going to come from. But either way, it's going to be a very, very young midfield side if that's the way it pans out. So, whether we can still go for the likes of Bruno G to have that type of experience, but we all know that INEOS, they've got this thing about not buying over the age of 26, but that doesn't rule out, that we can't go for a decent midfield player somewhere, whether it's within the Premiership or in Europe, that may be 24, 25, which is on par with Mbumu and Cunha, where they can hit the ground running and they've got an element of experience behind them to help the younger players, because I don't think we can totally rely on a young midfield 20, 22 and 23, to be fair. So I think that, they have got to sort of look at an experienced midfielder to blend into that. Um, Obviously, we're being linked to a number of players again with Newcastle: Anthony Gordon, Lewis Hall, obviously Tulani, Bruno G, and so forth. And there's other clubs within the Premiership. I mean, there's Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea. They're they're looking at one or two options of Newcastle as well. And in some respects, I mean, if it was a lower league club like your Crystal Palaces or your Bournemouth or something like that, if you lost that number of players, 4 or 5 top rated players, okay, yes, you can spend money and replace them, but obviously you've got to bed them in and all the rest of it. But I can't see Newcastle letting more than what they need go. And it's been rumoured before that if they let one player go for round about the 60 million, they wouldn't need to sell anybody else, because obviously that puts them back in compliance with FFP, PRS, whatever it is, to conform from the financial side. So I can't see Newcastle letting all them sort of players go. Albeit it's been reported that Anthony Gordon would like a move. Tonali has obviously said he'd like to go back to Italy, and I think Bruno G is on the outskirts of sort of saying he wants to go. Louis Hall, I'm not sure. He's only a young player. He seems quite content at Newcastle. Whether now they've been knocked out of the Champions League and obviously they're out of the cups, whether he might have his head turned a little bit if one of the big six clubs coming for him that's got some form of European football. But again, it's going to come down to Newcastle, and I can't see them letting too many of them players go. So there we are. But obviously, it's come out from Laurie Whitwell at the Athletic that Manchester United's first priority is still the midfield. But as previously mentioned, the Diamonde from Leipzig is obviously a big favourite to Manchester United because apparently when they didn't get Semenyo, Diamonde was their next choice left winger, and there's again rumours going around that Liverpool could be sniffing around him, and if Liverpool try and make any sort of a move, it could just make Manchester United move on Diamonde as our first signing because obviously they don't want to miss out on him apparently. So I think if Liverpool do make a move on him due to the fact that I think it's been announced that Salah's definitely leaving at the end of the season, and I think there's possibility that Gappo is it on the left wing he wants to go. So obviously they're definitely going to bring in a right winger at Liverpool, and there's a possibility they might want a left winger as well. So obviously it's been bandished about that there could well be an interest there for Diamonde, and albeit he plays on the left hand side, he has played on the right hand side quite a bit for Leipzig, and I do believe that the times he's played on the right, he's scored more goals and assists from off the right hand side than what he has the left. So he could adapt to the right hand winger in replace of Salah should they enter the race and make it more concrete. But obviously Manchester United have pretty much said that if Liverpool force the hand before Manchester United are ready, then Manchester United will move in on Diamonde, and I believe his transfer fee's been spoke about at about 60 to 70 million. Now, apparently, he's a young left-sided winger. He can play anywhere across the front. Apparently, he can play on the left. He can play on the right. He can play as a striker, and he can play as any of the number 10s. So it gives Manchester United versatility with another player that can play in more than one position. So obviously, that's going to be something to keep our eyes on. Should Liverpool make a move before us? If they don't, and things take a natural course, I think obviously INEOS will concentrate on the midfield players first. It wouldn't surprise me, as I've said, if Balaba's going to be our first midfield signing, and then it's whoever follows after that. To be fair, so obviously there's a lot going on at the moment. There's a lot being spoke about, so that's obviously something we've all got to keep our eyes and ears on. Now, obviously, INEOS, I think this will come the summer. I think it'll be the start of their third transfer window. So, based on the players they bought in last year, Mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko, and Lemens, which have all realistically proven out to be good signings, albeit there's a lot of room for improvement where the likes of Sesko is concerned. But again, he's a young lad, young striker, still learning his trade, but he's showing all the attributes of being a top-rated striker. I would think within the next couple of seasons for sure. If he's going to make it, he's going to make it within the next 2 seasons, and I believe he will. So I'm prepared to give INEOS a little bit of leeway this summer and see exactly what transfers they do bring into the club. If they can bring in some of the top targets like they've mentioned, Elliot Anderson, the likes of Tonali and so forth, then you've got to say, well, okay, they've delivered. If they don't and they start going down the pecking order and bringing in the third or fourth or fifth choices, then I'm afraid for me personally, it'll be INEOS will join the Glazers, and it'll be INEOS out. It won't just be Glazers out. So I'm prepared to give them this summer to see if they can do what they say they're going to do. So obviously, again, we're going to have to wait and see how the summer progresses and what transfers come in. We've also got to look at who's going out. We know Casemiro's going out. We know there's a very good possibility of Ugarte going out, and we all think that Xerxes will be going out. Now, obviously, there's probably another couple of three players within Manchester United at the moment that are in the first side. It'll be interesting to see if they move any of them on, in the likes of Luke Shaw, Dallow, and how they're going to actually look at our central defence in respect to centre halves with Martinez, sorry, and we know by the looks of it, Harry's going to be staying. So obviously we need to keep on top of INEOS and say, well, look, this is what we need. We need it. We've spoke in the last video about it's been reported that if Manchester United want to, they can spend up to about 400 million, but it's unlikely that they'll spend that. I think they'll only spend round about the 250 million. But if it means getting us back to where we need to get, and then summer windows after that, we only need to, sort of add a couple of players a season, like we quite often did under Ferguson, because he had a big squad and he'd just bring in a couple of new players, sometimes three players in a season, just to top it up and maybe move somebody on that was coming to the end of the career. Then I think that's where we really realistically need to be. Talk about the manager's position. Apparently now there's a short list of three candidates, one being Michael Carrick, which a lot of outlets firmly believe he's going to be the number one choice, and it's looking stronger and stronger that Michael Carrick will probably get the job based on his performances, getting us into the Champions League and his win rates, etc. Albeit the football's not attractive at the moment. It's all about results this season and getting the Champions League. But obviously, if Michael Carrick gets a job for next season, I think possibly it would be a 2-year contract, and then we need to see the standard of football improving. That goes without saying. We need to be playing a lot more attractive football and not just counteracting, sitting back and hitting them on the break. That's all very well and good for this season, but I don't think it's going to fit well for next season onwards. The other candidate that's on the short list of three is obviously Enrique. Obviously the PSV manager, and also the German national coach. I'm sorry, I don't know his name, but I know he's the German national coach. Apparently those are the three managers on the shortlist now for the managerial position. But as I say, it's looking like at the moment, from the way everybody's reporting it, that they believe that Michael Carrick is now strongly the number one option, and a lot of people believe that he's going to get it. If Michael Carrick gets it, I'll give him my backing. He was a good player, good servant for Manchester United as a player. And I think if he gets a job, we've got to give him our support, and see how he does, basically. We'll get an indication between when the season kicks off and the build up to Christmas as to where we are and the style of football that we're playing. So obviously, until again that period of time comes, we can't really comment on it. You can't say that Michael Carrick, if he gets a job, he's young, unexperienced, got the sack from Middlesbrough. Pep Guardiola, Arteta at Arsenal, and various other managers that was ex-football players, they've all gone on to do well. So you can't write Carrick out for those reasons I've just mentioned and say he's not going to be good for Manchester United. He could turn round and actually be a really good manager and be successful. So obviously, if he gets the job, as I say, we've got to give him that period of time to hopefully bring in some of the players that he wants. He's got to link up with the board. They will take his opinion on who they think or who he thinks would be suitable in various positions. It doesn't mean to say that Wilcox and Lavelle are necessarily going to bring in his choices, but they'll obviously listen to what he's got to say and the reasonings why Carrick thinks that those players he'll mention will fit in with Manchester United and help push us to the next level. So, as I say, we'll just have to wait and see on that. Just a brief thing that come out about the stadium yesterday, the new stadium. There was a report given from Manchester United about the new stadium is progressing, but the details that was given didn't really indicate that we're much further forward than what we was when we had the last update, which was about 4 months ago. It's still no really farther forward other than the fact that I think they're trying to get the stadium built on private funding, but obviously with that private funding, it's going to come a cost. It's going to affect all our existing Manchester United fans that go there week in, week out. They go to the away matches. We've already seen on a couple of occasions since INEOS took over ticket and season ticket price rises. And I think it's going to happen again, even at Old Trafford as it stands, because they're trying to scrat and bring in money from wherever they can get it to put towards that new stadium. I just hope that everything that INEOS is doing, that it doesn't overly impact future transfer windows, because they're trying to rob Peter to pay Paul all the time, and then saying that there's no money available for big transfers. That's why it's important this summer that if it is true that Manchester United could spend up to 400 million, that we act on that and spend that money now, because if that brings 5 or 6 players in, plus what we bought in last season, I mean, that's 10 new players over 2 windows, and then hopefully the window after that, if we're in a position to bring another 3 or 4 in, then hopefully we're back in a position there where we're challenging for the Premiership title. I mean, I know previously they've mentioned 2028 that they believe will be challenging for the title. Well, looking on what we've just discussed, if they spend that sort of money this summer and they bring in another 3 or 4 after, that's going to pull us into the 28 season. So that's a season initially they're saying that we should be challenging for the Premiership title. So again, it'll be interesting to see whether that happens. But on the stadium, because it hasn't progressed any more than what's previously been reported, really. It's going to take a minimum of 5 years to build once the shovel goes in the ground. And I think they said something yesterday that they're looking at having it open and ready for the 2035 Women's World Cup. I think it is. Yeah, it'll be the World Cup. So if that's the case, I mean that's another 9 years away. So it's a long time. It's a long time of scratching around, and let's just hope that our fans don't get impacted too much between now and then with ticket price rises, shirt cost rises, and everything else that goes with it. Because we've got to be in the market every year to keep competing in the Champions League and for the FA Cups and Carabao Cups and all the competitions that bring us money in on a regular basis, because that all helps towards a transfer kitty anyway. But I'd just like to thank everybody again for viewing my videos. So please smash a like, share the video, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. because we are trying to build a good community here. So don't forget, smash that like button, please. And I'll be doing another video on Friday, whereby hopefully we can have something a bit more concrete to report, maybe on transfers that we're moving on. But at the moment, with they're saying they've got a short list, favours or favoured shortlist for midfield, and obviously Diamonde. And one thing I have forgot is that apparently the Lewis Hall, apparently there's been interest shown in him as a left back, so that indicates to me that Manchester United are looking at bringing in a left back this summer. Hopefully, we can do that because we desperately need it, and it may well be another left back that can play left and right like Mazraoui can. So it may not necessarily just be a fixed position player; it could be a multiple position player. Luke Shaw. I mean, he can play left back, he can play centre half, and so forth. So I think that's where we're going to be looking at. With every position that we go for. But again, please smash a like. And as I said at the beginning of the video, if you are looking at an home function celebration meal, don't forget to give Die White a look, and I'll speak to you all on Friday. Thank you very much.